Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 11th episode of Limerick Junior Soccer Focus with myself, Adrian, Finnin, and Aidan Ryan. Another packed schedule ahead for us this evening as we dissect last week's FAI Junior Cup action and the draw for the next round, the fourth round of the FAI Junior Cup has also been made, so we'll be going through that as well, reviewing last weekend's, Premier Division games and previewing the Premier Division games to come as well. Aidan, plenty to talk about. We'll start with that FAI. As I said, you had the teams that went through: Fairview Rangers, a scare, it must be said, against Charleville 3-2, considering they beat Charleville 6-0 earlier in the season, but they got through the 2020 FAI Junior Cup winners. Pike Rovers won 5-1 away against Newport, which was a relatively impressive win considering Newport were high-flying in the Premier A division. Somerville, the third division side, so Division 1A side in Limerick District League, overcame the Premier A side, Moyross, to make it to the out-of-town stages for the first time in their club's history. Ballinanty Rovers beat Coona 4-0 as well in their tie, and Regional United overcame at Lunkard Villa at Lee Estate. Now, we know you were a busy man, Aidan, on Sunday, and you viewed two of those games, so do you want to fill us in?
Yeah, I took in the Lunkard regional game on Sunday morning, Adrian. Really good cup tie, I have to say. Regional deserved to win the game in the end, but listen, for long spells, 60 or 70 minutes, Lunkard certainly gave it to them and were winning the match. Went a goal down. Paddy Hartigan scored a long-range 25-yarder. Came back and equalised. Christian Curley, beautiful low shot into the corner of the box. They'll be disappointed with the second goal at Lunkard, Adrian, because it was a replica of one of the goals they conceded in the Munster Junior game a few weeks back. A free kick, needless free kick given away out wide. Same type of free kick into the box, and the centre-half Cowper got on the end of it. 2-1. And I suppose at half-time, you'd have taken that if you were regional, wouldn't you? You're going in at half-time and you're happy enough to be ahead. Probably generally in control of the match, although Lunkard were certainly making a fight of it. But funnily enough, at the start of the second half, Lunkard started to get a little bit stronger, I felt, and they had a golden 10-minute spell midway through the half where they were putting a lot of pressure on the regional back four, by the way. He played a back four during the game. And I have to say, I thought they deserved the equaliser. Unfortunately for them, 60 seconds later, some poor decision making and they were 3-2 down. Owen Duff, really good finish, but he had a lot of goal to aim at. The keeper was lobbed from outside the box, and the fitness told in the end. The physicality of regional and the fitness told in the end, and they ended up winning 5-2, which sounds very comfortable. But to be fair to Lunkard, I don't think it's a fair reflection of the game. I felt for 70-75 minutes they were certainly well in the game, but overall, regional deserved their victory, I have to say.
That's the difference, really, Aidan, isn't it, between the top sides and the lower divisions? I do remember playing regional in a tie myself years ago. We were 1-1 until about the 65th, 70th minute again. Ended up losing 4-1. So that final 20-25 minutes, maybe that extra bit of fitness does kick in, doesn't it, for the Premier sides?
There's absolutely no doubt about it. And to be fair to Keith Cowley, he did try to adjust the situation. He brought in a number of subs to try and freshen things up and get fresh legs in. Unfortunately, probably didn't have the impact he would have hoped for, but he had certainly no other choice but to do it, because for the 60 or 70 minutes, you have that physicality of the Premier teams and you have that fitness, and it does take its toll in the last 15 or 20 minutes. And to be fair to regional, they managed those last 15 or 20 minutes really well and deserved the victory in the end.
Yeah, and the second game you were at, I believe, Aidan, was the Ballinanty win over Coona. I know I was speaking briefly to Ian Connolly. They were due to have a 2-week cup game, which was postponed for another week, which will be on, we'll say, Thursday week, tomorrow week. Now, he did say that his side picked up a few injuries, so he wasn't overly disappointed that was the case. But it sounded like another game which seemed more comfortable if you're looking at it from the outside than it might have been.
Yeah, it wasn't a particularly good game, no, Adrian. The standard of football wasn't great. Bar the first 20 minutes, Balla took an early lead. Same old failings for Coon, Adrian. We've been flagging it every week. A set-piece goal after 60 seconds, a corner kick, maybe 2 minutes, a corner kick. And it just wasn't dealt with. And they could have gone 2 down within minutes from another corner kick. a short corner, and then the backs turned and they were nearly caught again. I thought Bala were comfortable enough in the first half. In fairness to Kuna, started the second half a lot better, readjusted things a little bit, and later on in the match went 3 at the back and took the game to Bala a bit without ever creating anything. Now, Kuna went into the game without Joey Sheehan, without Niall Earls, suffered a couple of injuries during the match. Gordon McKevitt had to go off. They brought on a sub, and he had to go off even after 10 or 15 minutes with a hamstring injury. So, little small things going wrong all over the pitch for them. Showed a lot of character, I thought, to keep going throughout the whole match, but never really threatened. I thought Ballinanty were fairly comfortable without being their usual self. Kept the ball very well in the first 20-25 minutes. Conditions were fairly heavy underfoot, and that the pitch wasn't in bad condition. But listen, you're coming into that time of year now where the ground is a lot heavier. Maybe the grass isn't as cut as tighter as it normally is, so it does slow things up. So in the second half, I thought the game was a non-event. Really, there wasn't a lot of flow to it. But it's all about winning matches, isn't it? And Ballinanty be delighted they got through that game and won it. And of course they kept the clean sheet, and they had a couple of decent performances again. I thought Habida was very, very good up front again. Really good movement. Scored again, and was a fulcrum for the attack the whole time. But overall, wasn't a great game for the purists, I have to say.
And the reward for Ballinanty, Aidan, in the fourth round in the last 64 of the FAI is a trip to Cork against Everton. You also have Fairview Rangers against Manola FC of Mayo. Somerville were awarded with a home tie against, although be it a very tough home tie against Gorey Rangers of Wexford. Regional have either Coolrain or Longford Town Cruisers. I haven't heard of either team. We'll get on to Pike. Have Peak Villa, who have a 100% record in the Tipperary Premier. That's a tasty affair, Aidan. Before we come on to that one, I suppose, I mean, you're probably going to say, no, you know all about this Manola FC side, but I've never heard of them, to be fair. But, what's unknown can be dangerous, can't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of sides in the last 64 that people won't be familiar with. And listen, we've said before, it's cup football, but I think bar the Pike game, you would expect all the teams, Adrian, to be reasonably happy with the draws they got. In terms of Fairview going to Manola, it's out of season for Mayo football now at the moment, isn't it? So, they're at a disadvantage, bar playing a few friendlies and things like that. It's going to be hard to keep the momentum up from the end of their season. Now, they did beat Westport en route to getting out of the area. They finished, I think, about 5th or 6th in the division, and they're that type of a team, a mid-table Premier team that every few years they get a decent run in the league, and they have been out of town in the FAI before, but you certainly expect Fairview to come through that match, albeit maybe a bit tighter than people might think. Manola might put it up to them a little bit. Your Longford Town Cruisers, a great draw for regional. Coolrain FC and Longford Town Cruisers are from the Combined Counties Football League. And listen, the standard wouldn't be really great there now. And the good news for regional is whichever them come through that game, Longford Town Cruisers are actually a Saturday team, so wouldn't be of a high quality. Coolrain FC, I think, or Coolrain FC are a Division 1 team. They're not even a Premier team in the CCFL. The Premier teams would be more like, Mullingar Athletic, Mullingar Town, and teams like that up there, Clara Town. So if Owen Duff doesn't come out with 2 or 3 goals out of that game, I'll be pleasantly.
Oh, you are setting regional up for a fail. I love it.
I'm expecting Sean and the crew to come back with a 5 or 6-0 victory out of that.
and meanwhile hoping for a closer game all the time. It's funny because I was thinking there when you were saying about, that they're not even a Premier team when you were discussing Coolrain FC. There's some fella like myself up in Wexford now saying, I mean, who are Somerville Rovers? They're not even a Premier team in Limerick. But I mean, I suppose, look, no matter who Somerville got, it was only going to be a bonus. They didn't even expect to get this far. Yeah,
fantastic. It wasn't a fantastic victory for them. They're the division lower than Ross would have gone into that game, favourites into that match. So brilliant for Somerville to come out of it. And I think is it the first time in their history, Adrian?
Yeah, apparently so, yeah.
Yeah, listen, what a fantastic achievement. They have a home tie. Maybe they might have preferred an away trip. Who knows?
Yeah.
And our bus away. But they've got a tough tie, Adrian. Gordy Rangers have great credibility in the FAI.
I must say, and I was talking there to recently to a couple of Somerville lads, and they were asking for information, but the only specifics I could give them is that I've seen Gorey Rangers' name in the last 32 and the last 16 the FAIs maybe for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, well, they were beaten by Usher in the quarter-final there, 2020,
yeah,
wasn't it? 2020. Yeah, Usher got to the final that year, didn't they? So
that's right.
I think it finished 3-2, Adrian. So listen, Gorey will have plenty about them, and they're just one of those 5 or 6 top teams in Wexford, like North End and Courtown Hibs, Ferns United, teams like that constantly get out of the area in the Leinster Junior, do well in the Leinster Junior Cup and do well in the FAI. And Gorey's record in the FAI in the last 3 or 4 years, they've got out of the area nearly every single year, and are a big, strong physical team, but they can play a bit of football as well. So it'll be a huge task for Somerville. But listen, it's a day they'll enjoy. Hopefully they'll make the most of the day. And there is still the threat of a cup shock there, but you would expect Gorey to do their homework and come through it,
And that game is due to be played in the next couple of weeks, at the very end, the 27th of November at the latest, which we might not suit Somerville, Aidan, because their match against Moyross was actually moved out of Portland Park to UL because of the pitch not being in great condition. We've had nothing but rain since, and it doesn't look like it's going to be any better in the next 2 weeks either. So, I mean, for them to have any chance maybe of being competitive, you'd be hoping it'd be on in Portland Park where you can make the pitch nice and tight. You don't want to be bringing Gorey to UL.
No, if Gorey go to UL, it'll suit them. Nice big open field. It'll suit them grand, and being a premier team in Wexford. And I said with the pedigree they have, that type of ground will suit them. Whereas, as you say, if it's up in Portland Park, maybe the tight confines of the pitch, big crowd close to the field, the underfoot conditions, you might get something out of it there. But really, really tough task for Somerville. But great that they're in they're in that round. Fantastic.
I seem to remember you bringing Fairview Rangers, was it, as your time in Geraldines, you were saying to Richmond RFC rugby pitch at the Gary Owen Green, so you'll know about that.
Yeah, listen, you take every advantage you can get. You do what you have to do to win. If it comes to it and Somerville can manage it, I would certainly look at trying to play that game at home at all costs.
Absolutely. And another team that are at home guaranteed is Pike Rovers, and there generally isn't too many questions about that pitch. The top 2 to 3 sides in Tipperary always very dangerous, Aidan, in both the Munster and the FAI. Obviously, looking at the table, obviously the only reason Peakville aren't top is because Clonmel have played one more game than them so far, so a really strong start from them. That will be a tough one for Pike, that goes without saying.
Yeah, very tough game for Pike. I've watched actually Peakville quite a bit the last few years, Adrian, been to a lot of their games. An old player of mine, Mike Ryan, who used to play with us at Janesborough, is in the Peakville lineup and still playing well in midfield for them. They have Stephen O'Carroll, Dale Loughlin, a lot of good players, a lot of high quality in that team. Play a lovely brand of football. Maybe the big disadvantage Peak will have is that probably physically not very strong, whereas Pike are. But Pike will get a serious test up in the Pike field from them. I'm expecting a serious game out of them. And Peak have good pedigree as well in the FAI the last few years, Adrian. They've been reaching the last 32, the last 16, and they've reached the last 8, I think, in the last 5 or 6 years as well. Yeah. And they're coming force in Tip, in my opinion. Touching base with the league. Won the Tip Cup a couple of years ago. They had beaten St. Michael's in the semi-final. So a serious test for Pike. But listen, Pike are serial contenders in this competition, know how to manage games, have loads of experience, and their form over the last few weeks has been good. So I think they'll be looking forward to the fixture themselves.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll be sure to discuss them in more detail, maybe in just over a week when we're expecting the fixtures to be played. And just a quick look back at the Premier Division fixtures that, probably went under the radar due to the FAI Cup. a bit last weekend. You had Ashling and Coddy drawing 1-1 with Nina. Jamesborough also drew 1-1 with Crew Park. Both of those results combined mean that the top 6 is now sorted. Maybe not the order, but it's sorted now, and the split is sorted with Nina definitely making it through. Crew Park's we'll say challenge is now over. Nina, speaking to the manager there as well, he was probably a little disappointed because Liam Quinn was sent off after the hour mark for Ashling and Coddy, and apparently Nina did not score on a few occasions when they maybe should have. So I suppose it shows where Nina have come from as well. Obviously, they beat Annacotty recently in a resounding win in the FAI, but it probably shows where they're coming from this season and the fact that they're disappointed with results like that too.
Yeah, and it shows the standards that the manager is setting as well. Listen, there was no way that they were going to repeat what happened at the cup match, Adrian, because Ashling have been on a bad run recently, and I'm quite sure they would have been working away in the background to make sure that wasn't going to happen again. And to be fair to Ashling, they lost 1-0 to Pike the week before, or in their last league game. Albeit they lost, but at least the approach to the game was a lot better, and they handled the match a lot better in terms of the scoreline. But they're falling behind in the league now, Ashling. I think is 5 points now behind the leaders, Fairview and Pike. And you're coming to that split where they're going to be playing big games every single week. So they're in a funny position at the moment. They haven't won a lot of games. I think the game against Jamesborough in the TUI Cup was the first match they've won in about 6, maybe 7 matches. Very good point away from home for Nina. I know maybe they're a bit disappointed the fact that with Ashling going down to 10 men that they didn't take the 3 points. But I keep saying every point is precious in this league. And certainly where Nina have come from, they have definitely made a marked improvement of where they were last season. And we were questioning that. I was certainly questioning that about whether they'd be able to make that improvement. I think I questioned regional maybe in it as well. And to be fair to both of them, they both made that improvement, made the top 6 no problem, just breezed into it. So I think Nina are in a good place at the moment. There's absolutely no doubt about that. In terms of the result for Ashling, I think overall a disappointing result. They might feel, with having gone down to the 10 men, that it is a precious point, and that's fair enough. But in terms of the league, it's another couple of points dropped.
Yeah, absolutely. Probably early days, Aidan, but if you're looking at it in terms of the momentum that Ashling and Coddy don't have per se, and then you look at the fact that Pike Rovers, as we discussed last week, have won all 8 of their games so far, tend to win the big games, including the one against Ashling and Coddy recently, where we've said again, how many times have we said it, that Pike just managed to win these games even if they're not playing well. And given obviously Fairview Rangers winning 8 out of their 9 games, Ballinanty's still there as well. I mean, it might be too early, but it does look like it's going to be a huge challenge altogether for Ashling and Coddy to maintain a title challenge anyway.
Yeah, I think so. You're going to go into that top 6 now, and you're going to be playing those teams another couple of times for the rest of the season, and you're going to be you're going to have to be on your game every single week. Every single week, you're going to have to raise your game to very consistent heights. And Nina and Regional have proved that they're capable of taking points off some of these teams, and Ashling could be the ones that could be targeting in terms of maybe jumping a place in the league. So big task ahead for John Lycett and co out there. And the way the form is with Pike and Fairview, I can't see Ashling making any dent in terms of the top 2, certainly. Maybe top 3 or 4, it's quite possible. But Bala have been on a decent run as well, so it's going to be tough.
I can't say I did my homework last year, Aidan, in terms of the points tally between the top and the 6th team before the split, or just at the split. It's 6 points now at the moment between Fairview and Nina. Now, Fairview have 1 game less played. Also have taken into account that Pike have 2 games in hand as well on Nina and Ashling and Coddy in that as well. I suppose, is the hope that it will be a lot tighter than last year? Well, that's obviously the hope, really, isn't it? That it will be tighter and more competitive than it was, we'll say, towards the end.
Yeah, well, you'll be looking for these teams in the lower part of the top 6, as it were, to go to the likes of Fairview and go to the likes of Pike and take something off them. I mean, that has to be the ambition, surely. And to be fair to the managers and to be fair to the clubs, Nina and Regional, they've shown a desire to get into that top 6. They want to be there. So they will be measured by that now. We've said it before. We'll be measuring them against their results against these top 3 or 4 teams, and I'm quite sure. Look, when it is finally done, the top 6 and the bottom 6, they'll be looking at the fixtures and they'll be seeing where they can target the points, and hopefully they'll set their teams up to cause a couple of surprises.
Certainly, and at the other end, you had Janesborough and Crewe Park drawn. I know that there was probably disappointment in Janesborough, who felt they may have got all 3 points from this one. Crewe Park, we did mention it. It was going to be a long shot as to whether they would get into the top 6. That's definitely been ruled out now. So attention, I suppose, for Crewe Park and Janesborough as well, with only 4 points between the two of them, will turn to trying to be the best of that bottom 5 sides as it is now.
Yeah, I think in fairness, it was probably a vital point for Janesborough, Adrian. The last thing they wanted was Crewe Park pulling ahead of them by another few points. So the fact that maybe Crewe Park are 3 or 4, is it 4 points? I think it's 4 points ahead of Borough now in the league.
Yeah.
Which look, is you can still catch that. It's quite attainable. Crewe Park, I had them kind of tipped to make the top 6. Their early season form was very promising. They looked like they were on the right track, but they have fallen away badly in the last 4 or 5 matches.
Just 3 wins from 10, and just 3 wins from 10 overall. Yeah,
it's really poor form, and some of the wins. Some of the wins in the last 2 weeks have been in cup games. All right, they beat Fairview, which was a fantastic win in the 2-week cup, and after that, I think the only victory they had was against Mungra D or Mungra B in the Munster Junior Cup. And other than that, they haven't seen a win in the league. So their form is very concerning at the moment. And I've also flagged the fact that they've been missing a lot of players from the squad. They've been coming in and out of the squad. Maybe some have been injured and maybe some have been not. And that would be a concern to Albert Slattery. I've absolutely no doubt about that. And it'll be tough down there in that bottom 6, because Coonagh, Charleville, Mungret, Janesborough, they're all going to be scrapping for points. It's going to be cutthroat stuff down there, especially in the first few matches at the start of it. So I'd be worried for Crewe Park given their form at the moment. Janesborough, I think Janesborough will improve, Adrian. I think Shane will strengthen the squad. He's done it already. I think the team is very young. They have a lot of pace in the team, and I think if they can add a few goals to their games, they'll be okay. I think they'll pull out of it.
One team who will be hoping that certainly isn't the case, and that Janesborough don't improve significantly, will be Munster Regional, who are obviously at the foot of the table as we speak. It doesn't get any easier for Mungret. They have Regional United away in what's a bit of a derby of sorts. Anyway, they play on Saturday night out in Doyle. It's not do or die in terms of this game for Mungret, but really in the next few weeks of the season, maybe going into after Christmas, because there isn't much left in it either. Mungret can't just be looking at draws now. It's kind of almost going, for the want of a better expression, going for broke and trying to get a couple of wins. They might as well nearly lose 5 or 6-0 in games now going for it, I'd say.
Yeah, they need to get 3 points on the board. It's a thing about morale as well, Adrian. You're coming up to that period before Christmas, and you want your morale going well over the Christmas holidays before you come back. And listen, in fairness to Richie Burke, I know he'll be working hard on the training ground trying to get the team ready for this game, like he does with all games. And you just need a little bit of lady luck. Sometimes you make your own luck, Adrian, but you need a little bit of to get you over the line. I don't think they've won a game on the pitch, so it's very important that they get 3 points and get more points on the board. And listen, I'm going to say it again, a point wouldn't be the worst result in the world.
No.
3 points. 3 points to be a huge morale booster. Regional are in decent form at the moment. They're at home. I think Regional at home, aren't they? So they're going to be on artificial pitch, which are Regional are well used to. So again, it'll be tough enough. But maybe
is there an opportunity there for them? I suppose, Aidan, we know there obviously is an opportunity in every game you play, but because Regional are so sure now of obviously being in the top 6, don't really have obviously title aspirations. I know Sean Russell will have high standards in his first season, obviously trying to win every game. But you never know with player psyche. So Mungret have it all to play for. Regional maybe not so much. So I suppose there is an opportunity there, isn't there?
There's an opportunity to get something, yeah, even if it's a point. The other thing is that regions form, you just don't know. Like you say, psychologically, fellas can tune off knowing that they're in the top 6 already. But the other thing I wanted to say was that the recent league game against Fairview, Mungret lost 2-0, you know, and Richie did set him up defensively in that match to make sure that they were trying to get a clean sheet, obviously, out of the game. And to be fair to him, you know, I know I've said before, you don't get kudos for performances, but he might be able to take something out of that into the regional game and say, listen, we had a decent shape about ourselves. We held out for long periods. Can we do the same again and maybe counter-attack and pick up something? And that's what he's got to cling on to and keep the team disciplined, keep the morale up. And who knows, they might get something out of it.
I know he was disappointed, actually, Aidan, from speaking with him earlier in the week, that Aled Harkin is missing for the game this week. He said that that's a huge loss in the games recently that they were playing and they were competitive in. He was actually playing Aled Harkin further up the field as a number 10, and I suppose with that experience and that, you know yourself from probably seeing the player, that bit of skill he has, you know, that it would have been, you know, even though he'd be in the advancing years, it would have been a big player to have in a game like this. So that is a bit of a disappointment.
Yeah, big blow. And you listen, when you're down there at the bottom like that, you can't afford to be losing big players like that. And listen, Aled Harkin is a very intelligent footballer. Having worked with him before, there's no problem playing him in that role. He mightn't have the legs of old, but he can read the game. Very good use of the ball. And of course, he's brilliant at set pieces, as you know, Adrian. Brilliant at corner kicks.
Brilliant at that end as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we have to move on now, I suppose. Nina and Pike. It feels like Nina and Pike are playing each other every 3 weeks. I don't know if I'm the only one thinking that, but Pike Rovers will obviously be desperate to keep their 100% winning record going. Aidan, I don't know, like I can't remember the last time that I've seen a team, if they went through the whole first phase with a 100% record, that would be an achievement. But Nina have been solid against Pike in a lot of ways. I know you saw Nina actually against Pike earlier in the season, and he said they gave away a couple of soft goals. Obviously, that'll be something they'll be hoping won't occur again, and maybe third time lucky for Nina against Pike. Who knows?
Yeah, but the thing is whether they've learned from the last few games, Adrian. As I said to you before the game, I felt they were defending too deep in the game against Pike in the first half, and in the second half of that game, they pushed further up the pitch, and I thought they were a lot better. They gave away two really poor goals in set pieces, really cheap goals. So I'm sure they've earned out that. It's a home game from home tie. They're in great form at the moment. Traditionally, as you know, look, Nina like to get the ball in the floor. They like to open the pitch and they like to play. I would, if I was them, I would certainly approach the game like they did the second half of that cup game, the last game, push higher up the pitch, condense the play a bit more, and maybe give Alan Sheehan a chance to dictate the game a little bit. But Pike are in great form, Adrian, aren't they? You know, just grinding out wins. Like you said, the game against Ashling, last minute penalty, grinding out another win. Big Crew Park in the league, 4-0 comfortably. Going out to Nina on Sunday, you know, an absolute banana skin of a match.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Newport, even where Newport are. 3 goals up after 20 minutes, even though they get a man sent off after that. Manage the game, see it out. So professional. Steve McGann starting to come into form again.
And Walsh Loughlin as well, big player from Eden.
I was just going to say, Adrian, the players are coming back. Colin Walsh Loughlin back, really good player. Squad looks a lot stronger. He has a big squad as we've flagged before, but the actual bench now is looking really strong. And the only thing I'll go back to is I don't see a regular goal scorer there in terms of the league that's going to score 25 goals for you. Like Conor Lang, I think, as I said, referred back to him before, scored 30, 32 goals in the league. I don't see that happening. So they're going to need goals from around the pitch. But listen, Pike are good at set pieces, and they have a few box players like McGann that will get into the box and do third man runs for you, like Walsh Loughlin. So a tough match for Nina. Pike will grind out results. I think they'll grind out another win here, believe it or not. It'll be tight, but I think they'll grind it out.
I do think so as well. Would you be any bit surprised with an Owen Henry header or a 1-0 victory there for Pike? It really wouldn't surprise you at this stage. Our final game to preview, Aidan, for the weekend is another Saturday night fixture actually, which takes place in Cork. It's Charleville versus Ballinanty. a total free hit, it must be said, for Charleville, Aidan, who maybe will be looking forward now to coming into the second half of the season, playing against all the teams around them. They have a home tie here, and they'll take a lot from that spirited display against Fairview last weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. You said it yourself, they've been beaten by Fairview 6-0 in the league. So to come back and give Fairview a game in the cup 3-2, but it's cup football and you're back to the mundane efforts of the league. And we've been saying time and time again, they've got to go out and try and keep a clean sheet. They haven't been keeping enough of clean sheets. Conceded 24 goals in the league, Adrian. Adam Castle might be reasonably pleased. 1-2, drawn 2. Is it last 5, I think, with the 8 points. Yeah. So he might look at that and say, listen, we're doing okay, and that's fine, but you got to get out and pick up points in the league now, and every single point is precious. They're meeting a Ballinanty team that have been tipping away nicely enough. They'll be delighted with that FAI draw. They've been drawn away to Everton, so they'll be happy enough with that. A team that I think that they'll be favourites to beat. They're into 3rd place in the league. I think Ball have only lost once in the league this year. Is it 1 out of 9, drawn a couple, but their form is decent. It'll be on the Astro, obviously. So I think actually big open pitch out there. I think that will suit Ballinanty. So I think Charleville will be in for a tough match. Can they bring the form they showed in the cup, Adrian, into the league game? Can you be that consistent? And that will be the test for Adam Castle and his players. And listen, they have some lovely talent out there. Young McNamara, Owen Clifford, Shane Dillon. A lot of talent in that squad. But they're just, in my opinion, leaking too many goals, and they've got to tighten up and make this a contest like they did with the Fairview game last weekend, if they want to take anything out of it. Yeah,
and I'm going to throw this at you on a final note, and this is something that we certainly haven't even spoken about, but because the top 6 is now copper fastened and the bottom 5 is as well, and I'll go first here. We're going to take a stab at who you think is going to win the league in the second half of the season, and who is going to finish top of we won't go on about relegation, we'll go positive first, but who will finish top of the second 5 teams in this league. I'm going to go for, against my better judgment of the way Pike Rovers play and the way they get results, I'm going to go for Fairview Rangers to be league champions by the end of this season. The second part was extremely tough. I mean, there's only 4 points between Crew Park and Janesborough, who are third bottom if you have Prospect in it, but second bottom in the playing teams right now. I have a hunch that you might go for Janesborough. I'm going to go all bets on and back Adam Castle's Charleville to finish at top of that, and that will be a surprise, I'd say.
Yeah, you caught me on the hop now. I haven't had a chance to think about it.
I knew that.
I think Pike will win the league. I think they'll grind it out.
I was very torn on that. No, I was very torn on that.
I'm still suspect of that Fairview defence. I still have reservations about it. Paul Danner won't thank me for that, but listen, it'll be great motivation in the dressing room when they're playing Pike. I think Pike will grind it out and just about get over the line in the league. As regards the bottom 6, I'm going to have to preface this by saying to Adrian that I've absolutely no time for a trophy for finishing 7th.
Oh, you've made your feelings very clear on that all season.
I just cannot fathom it at all. I've no time for it. It's redundant. But if you're going to push me on it, I have a sneaky feeling that Janesborough are going to improve in the second half of the season. And there's nothing between those that bottom 6 at the moment.
And there's no bias to Shane O'Hanlon involved there.
Yeah, there's a bit of that. Maybe the heart has run ahead a little bit, and I'm putting Shane under a lot of pressure now. But they're on 7 points. Crew are on, I think, 11 points. Crew on 11 points. Charleville on 8 points. I think if Shane gets in the few players in December, if he can get in maybe another 2, and I know he's actively trying to get another couple, I think they could finish top of that pile. If not, I expect Crew to grind it out.
I was going to say that. I was going to say that because, like, obviously, if you asked us this question 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we were told maybe, or 5, 6 weeks ago, that we were told that Crew wouldn't make the top 6, we would have thought that it was because they only missed out by 3 or 4 points. But it's just because of the lack of momentum they have is what swayed me to go for someone else. But I suppose, as you said, they, if they can get any bit of form together in the second half of the season, like, you'd imagine they'd be favourites, really.
Yeah, well, the other thing I'm going to say about Crew, Adrian, is they're into the semi-final of the 2-week cup. And I think that'll be vital in terms of their league form after Christmas. If they can get into the final of the 2-week cup, I think it'll give them huge momentum. And I think they might keep their league form going as a result. If they're beaten in the semi-final of the 2-week cup, I think that momentum might drop. And it might affect things in terms of training and stuff like that. So it's I'm covering my angles a little bit here, all right. But I have to say the whole thing doesn't interest me anyway in terms of giving a shield to a trophy to the team that finished 7th. Now, sorry for being so bland about the whole thing, but that's how I feel about it.
And I hope, to be honest, that Mungo Regional will pick up a couple of results and make it really interesting. And then maybe in a couple of weeks we can put our head in the chopping board in terms of a relegation candidate. But that should be interesting as well. And my thanks once again to Aidan for his insight into all things Limerick Junior football. And obviously we hope to see you again next week, all of our loyal band of supporters for this podcast, as we discuss all the Premier games and whatever is in the news for Limerick Junior Soccer for next week. So thank you for joining us.